Today is Monday, June 7th, 2004. This is Ginny Veda. I'm interviewing Tech Sergeant Paul J. Smail of Latrobe, Pennsylvania. Sergeant Smail served from July 1941 through September 1945 in the European theater during World War II. He was in the Air Corps and served in Africa, Sicily, Normandy, France, and the Rhineland. Sergeant Smail, thank you for joining us today. Do you remember when you were drafted?
I certainly do. I was drafted in April of 41. Went to Pittsburgh, took my examination, figured I was going to fail for the simple reason I tried to get in the CC camps a few years before and couldn't pass for a physical, so I thought I was safe, but I wasn't. I was guaranteed to go to the service.
And this was before Pearl Harbor, so this was before the official war.
Yes, 1941.
And so they were drafting soldiers in preparation, or?
A friend of mine, Witkowski, and I were the first two drafted from our hometown.
From your hometown. Okay. And you were telling me before we turned on the tape that you had hoped to be in artillery, in the Army, correct?
Correct.
But you didn't end up in the artillery,
No,
did
I did
you?
not. I ended up in the Air Corps.
And how did you get into the Air Corps?
Well, they took us down to Fort Meade, Maryland, gave us our shots, gave us one uniform, took tests, and after the tests they assigned me to the Air Corps. I didn't know I was going to be in the Air Corps until I got to Augusta, Georgia.
And in Augusta, Georgia, you...
Daniel Field, that's where they sent us.
Okay, and you then became part of a squadron.
Yes, part of the squadron that came from Texas.
Mm-hmm.
We had one big old fat airplane, a B-8, that everyone had to fly. And everyone got flying pay, even if you were a private or cook.
Is that right?
That's correct.
And as a tech sergeant, what was your job? What were you trained to do?
I was in charge of the airplane that I had. I had to do the pre-flights before, make 24-hour inspections, and make sure that everything's copacetic.
And how long were you in the United States before you were shipped overseas?
From July 26th, 41 till May 13th in 43.
Okay. So you were here for...
That's when we started overseas.
Okay.
Down through South America, Ascension Island to Africa.
Okay. And so when you left the United States, you left with the same group that you trained with?
Correct.
And you stayed with them pretty much for the...
All through the
entire
service overseas.
Duration. Okay. Mr. Smail, you were telling me that you were drafted before the war started and that you were in the service for about 6 months before Pearl Harbor. Once the war was officially declared, how did your job or your squadron's responsibilities change?
Well, we were in Daniel Field when the war broke out, and just as soon as they got some DC-3s or C-47s, they sent us up to North Carolina, Hope Field. And that's the first time I ever crawled in an airplane. I was a truck driver before, and the sergeant called me in one afternoon and he said, tomorrow morning you're going down to the field. I went down to the field. Tech Sergeant Smiley, I think the gentleman's name was, he said, come with me. I said, okay. So we jumped in the airplane, went up the front. He said, okay, sit down in the pilot seat. I didn't even know which one was the pilot seat. So after I did that, he said, now, there's the ignition, turn it. I did. There's the starter. Start one engine, start a second engine. He said, now we're going to taxi. And I had to drive the plane around over the field for the first time. First time I was ever in an airplane. And after that, I had to learn all the aspects of what a crew chief does. That was my job. And after that, I was assigned a plane, assigned the pilot, the co-pilot. And that's when we stuck together during the whole war.
So then you left the United States and you were a crew chief.
Yes.
And where did you head from the United States?
Well, from there we went to Texas.
Oh, okay.
Down there we were taking the gliders from Kansas City down to Texas for the guys to be learn to fly them. And after that they sent us back to Pope Field. And we got our orders on May 12th that we were going. So May 13th we took off for Europe.
For Europe?
Africa, I guess.
Oh yes, you went to Africa
That's where we
first.
started from.
Okay. And what did you do in Africa?
Prepared for the invasion.
Mm-hmm. And then after that?
Well, we took paratroopers in on the 13th of May. I'm not quite sure of the month anymore.
And you dropped them
We dropped
where? In
paratroopers.
Africa?
Yeah, no, that was in Sicily.
Okay, so you dropped them in Sicily.
And the day after that, we loaded up the supplies and went in the next day. And on our way out, we flew over our own Navy and got shot up.
And is that the story about your
My
brother?
was in the service.
So you had a brother who was in the Navy.
Yes.
And his plane, or his boat, was shooting at your plane,
There's
right?
A bunch of them. There's a
Yeah.
whole armada of them.
Oh my.
In fact, one plane came back sounding like a whistle, had a hole right straight up to the center of it.
That's a good example of friendly fire.
Yes.
You were lucky that you didn't get. You were lucky they weren't very good shots.
I'll tell you what, that guardian angel was with me the whole time I was in.
Yeah, yeah. So you were telling me that your plane was a transport plane. What kinds of things did you transport?
Well, people,
Paratroopers,
material, paratroopers, whatever had to be done.
gliders.
We towed gliders with it.
Mr. Smail, could you tell us again of the story about the paratroopers and the jumps that they make?
It's starting out with them.
The 2 times and on the 3rd jump.
Oh yes, that's when they were learning. If the paratrooper jumped twice and refused the 3rd time, it was automatic 6 months in brig plus a dishonorable discharge. So the AI always asked the crew chief if they get stuck in a door to kick them out, which I did one time.
One time, so you only had to kick out one person.
One person.
I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I guess you kept a lot of people.
It was a good thing then, but I don't know how it ended up.
Yeah, right. So you were also telling me about taking in gliders. How many gliders could you put in your plane?
You don't put them in, you pull them.
Oh, you pull them.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You got an eyelet ropes about 300 feet long,
Oh, okay.
and you pull them
And you pull one at a time?
one at a time.
That's a slow process,
Yes,
isn't
it
it?
is.
So for every glider, there had to be a transport plane
That's
towing
correct.
it.
That's correct.
Okay. And so your plane wouldn't have been able to go as fast as it normally did, could it? With a,
Oh yeah, you could.
Could you?
You keep the same speed.
Okay. Did you have to fly lower to
The
drop them?
glider all flew higher.
Oh, okay.
That way you stayed out of the prop. What
Okay.
they call, I forget.
The tailwind?
Ooh, no, it's the prop wash.
Oh,
That's what
the
they
prop
call it,
wash.
Prop wash.
Okay. You also were in the Norman invasion.
Oh yes.
What did you do in the Norman invasion?
We took off the night before midnight, or right after midnight. Flew down around the peninsula and came up through from the south of it up went north. Dropped all our paratroopers. We lost one plane from our squadron in that deal. And after that, it was supplies.
Did you only have to make one trip of dropping paratroopers, or did you have to
One
make more
trip,
than
yeah.
one?
One trip.
How long did it take to fly over the channel?
Oh, I don't remember anymore. It's not too long. It's just a short distance.
Just a few minutes?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
20 miles.
And do you recall where you dropped your paratroopers?
No. I know one thing, they were all over the place for the simple reason that the paratroopers were dropped in ahead of time, was supposed to set up the lights for us. Never got them set up,
Oh.
so everybody just took a chance of dropping them.
So you didn't really know where to drop
They
them?
were all over the country, yes.
were you dropping yours along the beaches, like Omaha Beach, Utah Beach, or did you drop yours flew in far?
We flew from the southern part of the peninsula across the beach.
Oh, okay, okay. Could you see anything? Well, that was. I mean, could you see what was going on in the channel? Could you
see a lot of fireflies, a lot of bulls flying.
I just wondered whether you could see all the boats and all the all of the activity.
Well, it was dark when we went.
Oh, you went at night or early morning?
Really early morning.
Really
yes.
early morning. Okay. And then you were also you also flew from Britain to northern Germany, right? The Rhineland. You did some drops there too.
Oh yes,
and
we took paratroopers. Well, we took paratroopers in Italy, northern Sicily. We dropped paratroopers a lot of different places, and even in Holland.
Oh, in Holland too.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Smail, you were telling us about your World War II combat experiences, and you mentioned to me about a trip that you took into southern France. Could you tell us about that?
Yes, when they started after Normandy, they started another drive from southern France to come up through, and we flew supplies from England all the way down and back in one day. And it was a good trip. A few bullet holes
Really?
when we came back, but outside of that, everything else worked copacetic.
Did you get a lot of did you draw a lot of fire? Did your plane and your squadron? I mean, were you under fire a lot when you were dropping people and supplies?
Oh, we dropped supplies. Oh, yes.
So it was not. It was more. Was it more common to be under fire?
You were under fire when you dropped paratroopers. You were under fire when you dropped supplies.
And did your plane ever get hit substantially that you had to?
Bullet holes through different places. Yes.
Did you ever wonder if you'd make it back to?
You never thought about that.
Okay. Did your plane ever get hit hard enough that you were okay? So you were fortunate enough.
We were fortunate. That's what I say.
Guardian angel.
Everything went good for me.
Yes.
I had somebody back home praying for me.
Probably lots of people. Well, let's talk about life in the service. And you mentioned about people back home. So, how did you stay in touch with your family while you were away?
Mail.
By
Always
mail.
by mail.
And did you get a lot of mail?
All the time.
Yes.
At least one a day.
And who wrote to you?
My wife, my mom.
So you got lots of mail.
Yes.
And what was mail call like? Did they deliver mail, or did you have to go and pick it up somewhere?
No, we had to pick it up.
Mm-hmm.
First sergeant's office always had the mail.
And were you able to write letters home, or?
Oh yes. Yeah, but there was always somebody checking out, make sure you didn't send something home
Right.
that wasn't copacetic.
So they cut things out of your
yeah.
letters.
Things out.
Yes, yeah. Even when you tried to be careful about where you were. So that meant that somebody read all of your mail before it got in.
Well, oh yes. They didn't read it coming in, but they read it going out.
That would have been an interesting job to have, wouldn't it? Reading everybody's mail. What was the food like in the service?
Well, as long as we were eating in the mess hall, it was good. But when we had to eat it out, well, it wasn't. K rations, which is cheese, Spam, a few crackers.
And you told me that at your air bases that there were mess halls, but that many times you came back from missions after the mess hall was closed.
Yes,
so
correct.
you didn't get a hot meal.
No, you did not.
And that's when you had to eat K rations.
K rations.
Let's take a look at some of the mementos that you brought. Could you hold up the picture of your plane and tell us a little bit about what kind of a plane this is? And
this is a DC-3, or what they call a C-47. It's a transport plane. And we have called supplies, paratroopers, and towed gliders.
And you're the handsome man on the left. You're the tall, handsome man on the left in this picture. That's right.
Tech sergeant on the left.
Okay. Good. Thank you. Could you show us also your wings, since we're looking at Air Corps things? These are the wings.
What I was given when
You were given these when?
This all crew chiefs.
Okay. All crew chiefs got them. So you wore those on your shirt or on your blouse or what?
On a blouse.
Okay. Okay.
Along with your ribbons.
I was thinking about this and I didn't ask you about it earlier, but there wasn't any heat in those planes, was there?
Yeah, there were.
Or was there heat?
Oh, yes.
Oh, so you didn't have to worry about being really cold in the wintertime, or was it cold in the planes in the wintertime?
Oh, we had heat.
Oh, okay.
We had hot water heat.
In the planes?
Oh, yes.
Oh. So you didn't really have to worry about bundling up and getting frostbite?
No,
No.
but we had to be careful because make sure it didn't freeze on us.
Oh, yeah. I hadn't thought of that. I think you have one other thing that I'd like you to show right now, and it's your dollar bill. Could you tell us about your dollar bill?
This is a dollar bill. Most of the gentlemen flew down through South America. We crossed the equator. We all took out a dollar bill and signed our names to it for souvenir.
And so you can see the signatures all over the dollar on both sides.
They're pretty well worn on by now, but it's still a memento.
Well, sure. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. You can put that down now. Mr. Smail, when we were talking about the heat on the plane, I also was wondering about bathrooms, and you said you had a cute story to tell about that.
Well, we had a cannon in the back, but we took nurses, flight nurses, because we were bringing wounded back. We take supplies over, bring wounded back. And when we was flying over, the big guns were shooting their big shots over and every time they shot, the airplane would shake, it just shudder. And they thought, poor nurse thought we was getting shot down, and she dirted herself.
Oh.
She came up to me and I told me what she did, and I said, I got a can of water in the back, and I said, you take care of yourself back there, and I'll take care of the rest when we get back to the plant, base.
So she wasn't used to being under fire like that, I guess.
No, she wasn't.
Huh?
But she was sort of thankful because I kept it quiet, and payday came, I had a fist of scotch.
Oh, that's a good story. Mr. Smail, you were discharged from the service, or actually came back to the United States before the war was completely over. So where were you last in Europe when you got the orders that you were coming back to the States?
Well, I was on my base at Sleaford.
In England?
Yes.
Yes.
I got my orders on the 14th and left on the 15th for Scotland. And I was up there one day, we got on a cattle boat. And started back 9 boats, and the war was still going on, so we had to watch for subs.
Mm-hmm.
And we hit an awful storm. If you see the boat in the front of you, you didn't see the one behind you. That's how big the waves were.
Wow.
And I was sergeant of the guard. We had prisoners down in a hole. We had ropes when we went out. Make sure we get washed overboard. That's how bad it was.
Wow. Do you recall how many? Oh, I'm sorry.
We landed in Virginia on December 31st, and they wouldn't let us off the boat. So it was New Year's Eve, and they didn't want us
Oh yeah, that's right. So you celebrated New Year's Eve
on a boat.
On the boat.
Yes, I did.
With prisoners.
With prisoners is right. And then
And where did the boat come back to? Where were you docked?
Newport News, Virginia.
Oh, so that would have been a good place to celebrate New Year's Eve.
Yes, that's where we come in.
Mm-hmm.
And then they sent us home for our vacation. I came home, waited, got a, that was such a true story. I figured how this happened anymore. I came home, I know I had to go up to the factory to get my wife.
Oh, she didn't know you were coming?
No.
Oh, so did you know that you were that you were coming back to the States?
Oh, I knew I was coming.
You knew, but she didn't
but
know.
She didn't, because I couldn't write anything on the boat.
Oh, okay, that's right.
She thought something happened because she hadn't been getting any letters from me.
Oh, okay.
And went up to the Anytime Gap. That's where I was getting discharged from. And I got took a bus. They was bringing a busload to Pittsburgh. Well, they left me off at New Stanton, down to interchange.
Uh-huh.
And the gentleman picked me up, took me down to Youngwood, down to the streetcar station. I got on the streetcar, went as far as my home, the southwest, stopped there for a few minutes, then went up to that man's home, or which was my home for a while. Took the car, went up to the factory, gave her a good surprise.
I'll bet she was surprised.
Yeah, she was. So love other people.
Oh, yes. Now, was that when you were actually discharged, or was that when you were home on your leave?
On leave.
Home on leave, okay. So you got a couple weeks off for leave.
Leaves off. Then we went down to Florida.
And your wife was allowed to go with you?
Yes. We had a 2-week vacation down there, and then from there we went back up to Newport News, Virginia. And then my job up there was first driving a gasoline truck, and then they had some DC-3s there. But all the big shot was coming in, like the generals coming in on a boat. They'd be flying up to Washington, D.C. So I was one of the chiefs flying up there.
And then you were discharged, though, actually before the war was over. Is that correct?
No, the war was over when I got discharged.
Oh, okay.
I came back from overseas before.
Before, but you were in until for the duration.
I was
Okay.
in for the duration.
So once the war ended, once VJ Day.
VJ Day, then like told the captain down there, I said, I want to get home.
And how did you get home? Bus or train or?
Well, they set me up, just like I said before, they set me up to Anytown Gap, and then by bus. That's the way I got home, by bus.
Indiantown Gap must have been the clearinghouse here
Yes,
for.
it was. That was clearinghouse for discharging.
For lots of anxious GIs who wanted
I
to
would
get home.
imagine.
Yes. Were there a lot of people there when you were there?
Oh yes, there was lines up.
Very crowded.
Of course, there was about 10 or 12 people. Sergeants lining us up, writing everything down.
Uh-huh. And I'll bet the bus terminal was busy with everybody.
We had a busload.
I'll bet. I'll bet.
And he was a gentleman. He lifted me off there. He didn't take me all the way to Pittsburgh because I'd have to come back.
That was
It was close home.
nice that you were able to get off there.
Yes.
Mr. Smail, I think you have a couple more things that we'd like you to show and tell us about. The first is a medal that you have. And could you hold that up and tell us what it is and what you earned it for?
This is the air medal that we received for our missions in Sicily, Normandy. I think they got 7 clusters for it.
I think you might turn it around and hold it by the ribbon. Hold it by the ribbon, Mr. Smail. Yeah, good. Then we can get a good picture of it. Great. Perfect. Good. And is that for flying missions during those?
No, this is for a lot of missions. You get a cluster with each one of them.
Oh, okay.
And see, I have 7 clusters.
So you did 7. Wow. The other thing that I think I want you to show, could you show us the photo of your squadron and tell us what group this is and where the picture was taken?
This is the 14th Troop Carrier Command, 9th Air Force. This is the whole squadron.
And this photo was taken
That's
in...
pilots, co-pilots, engineers, bakers, cooks, truck drivers.
Big group. And this is the group that you were with throughout the duration in Europe. Okay. And this photo was taken, I believe, in England. Is that correct?
England. This is Sleaford, England.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you very much. Mr. Smail, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about before we conclude?
No, just it was a great experience. I enjoyed it. I wouldn't give $1 million for it, but I wouldn't want to do it again. So that's the way I feel about the whole thing.
Well, I want to thank you very, very much for agreeing to participate in the Veterans Oral History Project and being part of the Greatest Generation historical project that will be in the Smithsonian Institute. Thank you.
Thank you.